Good afternoon. Welcome to the October 2025 Public Works Committee meeting. City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chairperson, Councilmember Burke.
Here.
Councilmember Andrew Bowen.
Here.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
And Councilmember Taylor.
Present.
Council members, we have 2 consent agenda items. Would any of you like to have those items pulled?
I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I can't.
Second.
Blink and read.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, and we have to vote, take a voice vote. All in favor of approving the consent agenda, please let us know by saying aye. Aye. The motion passes. Thank you. City Clerk, would you please read General Item 1?
Item G1, resolution approving an application for federal funding for the lead service line replacement program.
Okay, we have Ms. Courtney Driver to give us this information.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Burke, members of the committee and council.
Good afternoon.
So this request is for approval of an application for federal funding for the lead service line replacement program. And the lead and copper rule was first issued in 1991. There's been a few minor revisions since that time, but there was a significant revision in 2021, and the Utilities Department is responding to those revisions now to make sure that we stay in compliance. Part of the 2 key components of those revisions is we have to do a service line inventory, and then there's also an emphasis on replacing any lead sources in our distribution system within a 10-year period starting in 2027. So we've completed the preliminary inventory, and now we're working on actually going out and replacing those lead service lines. So there's federal funding administered through the state. There's funding cycles every 2 months, and the maximum per cycle is $2 million for what they call find and replace projects. These are situations where we still need to go out there and do some excavation work, and so for some unknown areas, so it includes exploratory work and replacement. There's another group of up to $5 million for situations where we already know that it's a lead service line or a galvanized line requiring replacement, and so there's up to $5 million for that. So the request for us is to request permission to make those applications every 2 funding cycles, one for the $2 million or up to the $5 million for those 2 buckets of money. And we intend to do that until all the funds are exhausted or until our projects are fully funded. And if you have any questions.
I know we have applied for other cycles of this money, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How are we coming on spending it, and do we have any idea what the total cost is going to be and how close we are to getting that kind of money?
So that's a good question, and I'm sorry I didn't mention that. So we have applied over the past year, and I brought a similar item in October and January, October of 2024 and then January of this year. The state has informed us that those resolutions are valid for a year, so which is why I'm bringing back a follow-up request. We have been awarded $2 million loans that with 100% principal forgiveness, so those are like grants, and they are, so we've been already applied for that, and right now we are developing our different zones. We haven't spent any of the money yet. We're working with a consultant to section off those zones and start spending that money.
Because I know Roslyn Road is going to be closed, I think, next week, a block of it to replace some of the galvanized pipes. So we are moving along, I guess.
Yes, as we find, if we are out there and we uncover it, we go ahead with our crews and do what we can. But this is going to be a more structured effort to really create the zones. The way you qualify for 100% principal forgiveness is that you have to show that a certain percentage in each project is in an underserved area. So that's what we're doing. We're taking all the areas that we found that are either unknown, definitely known to be lead or definitely known to be galvanized, and then we are sectioning off our zones so that we qualify for that 100% principal forgiveness.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Scott Andre Bowen.
Thank you, Chair. So in the report, it says that this will go towards private right-of-way, public right-of-ways and private property. Does the private property owner, do they have any funding that has to go towards any kind of replacement of on their property?
Our goal is to be able to replace those up from the right away to the house. Of course, we're not going to go inside the house, but our goal is to get as much funding as we can to be able to fund that for the property owners. And of course, we'll still have to work with the property owners to even get permission to be on their property. So that's a whole process that we'll have to set up and work with legal about how that works. But that is our goal in trying to request as much funding as we can.
Thank you.
Councilmember Scipio.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Driver, do you have any indication that these funds will continue from the feds down to the state, or are these some of our at-risk funds for infrastructure? Have you gotten any insight on that?
So what we're hearing and what we've been told is that this money that's been set aside for this type of work is there, and that it's not at risk. Now, of course, there's utilities all over the country that are trying to get this money, and they've portioned out different amounts per each state. So North Carolina only has so much, which is why we're trying to go ahead and get ahead of it and get as much as we can as early as possible. But I think what has been set aside, which is the $15 billion nationwide, what we've heard is that that's still there and still in place.
Thank you. Any additional questions? If there are no additional questions, can I get a motion to approve item G1?
I move for approval of item G1.
Second.
Okay, let us know if you're in favor by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. City Clerk, would you please read item G2?
Item G2, resolution authorizing the purchase of 11 paratransit vehicles for the Winston-Salem Transit Authority.
Good afternoon, Mr. Fansler.
And good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I appreciate your time this afternoon. I want to take just a moment to say thank you again for another iteration of something Worcester related. So thank you for hearing us out. Last month, we spent a lot of time talking about fixed route bus needs, and the item before you today is going to talk a little bit about our paratransit fleet needs. And so I want to spend some time talking about a replacement. And item before you really is to purchase 11 new paratransit vehicles. And so I want to go through a little bit of what we're talking about. As you know, currently we have 40 paratransit vehicles that we operate the paratransit service for today. And very similar to our fixed route, we have not done a great job historically on a routine recurring replacement schedule. And so we found ourselves behind replacement schedule. And so we are several buses behind where we should, 27 to be exact, of where we need to be regarding buses that have exceeded their useful life. And so in doing that, we have a documented need now to make sure we make demonstrated efforts to catch up. And every year, the City of Winston-Salem receives formula-based funds from FTA to specifically target aging fleet through the 5339 program. And so the item before you is going to discuss the replacement of 11 vehicles. And what I want to do is talk through kind of our current fleet, what we have that currently facilitates the paratransit service, and then the two different types of buses we plan to procure moving forward as the replacements of those vehicles. And so if you'll bear with me, I want to talk a little bit about the current model and then the two proposed models. Currently, this is what you see. This is not a stranger. This is the high roof, the elevated ceiling, raised roof Chevy. And so this is an 18-passenger vehicle. And so one of the biggest things here that we wanted to mention too is, this facilitates a lot of our higher capacity transit needs on the paratransit side, particularly industries for the blind, dialysis. What we haven't done is consider how that impacts our overall ridership needs, because if you ask me what our current ridership per hour is, we're much lower than that, right? At about 2.5 to 3 passengers per hour. And so that's a big thing we want to address with this current model. You've seen this, one of the big things that I want to highlight too with this particular bus is this is a CDO required because it's 18 passenger. And so there's a barrier there, obviously, with how many CDO drivers you have to have retained to operate these, a barrier there to make sure we constantly have the proper staff with that CDO requirement. So you've seen this, you're well aware, we've been buying these for many, many years. Moving forward, the two types that we are asking for consideration today are 8 of these LTVs. These are smaller, still raised roof, high ceiling, low floor, that allow non-CDL operators. Now, these still have very much capacity demand that we have for certain needs for paratransit. These are 14 passenger and allow for several, namely 2 wheelchair accessible spaces in these particular buses. And so I want to take a moment to explain why we're still considering buses of this nature. One of the main reasons for that is because when we dispatch buses in the morning, it could go to a dialysis run that could have 8 or 10 folks. That same trip could return going to pick up a single passenger, right? And so the efficiency of the system when you dispatch and scheduling, you have to have a vehicle that can handle multiple kinds of trips. And so that's a large part of what the need is to make sure we're properly scaling fleet as efficiently as we can, reducing the overall size, but making sure they're still satisfying a dispatch need throughout a service whole day. So that's a part of the nuance that we have to make sure we're satisfying when we dispatch our vehicles every day. So 8 of these is what we're proposing to purchase with this procurement. And additionally, much smaller, much different than you have seen in our service is a completely electric. And let me go back because I failed to mention, this is non-CDL, still gasoline motor, okay? So this is not electric or hybrid. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment, but this is still our gasoline engine. From there, the E-Transit, now this is a fully electric model, okay? 4 passengers and 2 wheelchairs, much, much smaller. And so there are isolated cases where this works great for what we have needs for, where we do those door-to-door service, where we have that doctor appointment visit, grocery store visit, where we have someone in, particularly with ADA access issues, where we could have this ramp satisfy that and side load with a low floor van. Very different. Now, one of the things I want to take a moment to talk about is because this is a major switch from a diesel or gas motor to the fully electric. A couple things to highlight on that, and I want to talk a minute about that is the infrastructure need to support that. So we're working with the sustainability department now to make sure that we outfit the existing garage to install the chargers to facilitate these. But as I go through this presentation, I want to take a moment and talk about sustainability at large. One of our partners is NCDOT Integrated Mobility Division. So we reached out to them and said, okay, what's the best practice in the terms of electric or hybrid vehicles in paratransit space? And there's not a lot of cases where they have given demonstrated examples of how to facilitate that need for electric fleet on the paratransit side. This one satisfies a lot of those boxes. It's much smaller. There's a barrier there that I want to make sure we're all aware of, though, because today, our paratransit vehicles, when we dispatch in the morning, travel about 120 miles in a service day. What we're hearing from Ford, which is the Ford E-Transit, is that's about an 80-mile service that we can have from a charge. So we have to have some operational challenges to make sure we can satisfy the demand for each vehicle. What we've got strong support from our team at RITP Dev, contractor that's administering our transit service, is that they can facilitate that. And that's an effort, I think, to where we can make some operational tweaks when we do shift changes, when we do fleet maintenance, to schedule things accordingly to make sure that we can integrate sustainable vehicles into the existing model that we have dispatching vehicles. So I think that's a big step in the right direction to integrate our sustainability goals while also making sure we're providing the service that we commit to in a full service day. One of the things that we were asked is, well, what about hybrid? You know, I see the gasoline motor, I see the electric and the hybrid, and that's one of the missing links really at scale in the paratransit world is when we reached out to IMD, which serves the entire state of North Carolina, they indicated that there are some barriers there to having enough available fleet and providers in the hybrid space. So we'll continue to see how the industry trends on maybe some hybrid options there, but not great options today to satisfy the hybrid bus in the paratransit space. Couple other things, and I'll wrap up. I just wanted to highlight. We talk a lot about right-sizing fleet, right? We talked a lot about that when we did the big 29-foot clean diesels last month about right-sizing our fleet. We know that if, a lot of times you're going to ride by a paratransit bus and you're going to see one or two folks on the bus, right? Understand that. I think what you see before you satisfies a lot of those type of trips. We still have the need when we're taking 8 or 10 folks to the dialysis center, we try to cluster those together. When we take in large groups to Industries for the Blind, where this model is going to serve a lot of those needs while still being able to facilitate the next trip. And so what we're committed to is trying to introduce a mixed procurement package that does a couple things: right size our fleet, reduces that CDL burden so we can make availability for driver, really availability across the transit organization to make sure that we never have service disruption for lack of CDL drivers. And then lastly is to make sure that we're trying to move forward with sustainable options and reducing the overall carbon footprint as we move forward to these type of vans and see how they integrate, right? Understand there's some operational challenges because they don't go as far. We need 120 miles a day. We're going to get about 80. And so we're going to work hard with RATPD to make sure that we integrate that into the existing dispatch software to make sure that we don't have any service disruptions as we bring those back in charge. That's a lot to unpack. It's a $1.2 million procurement for these 11 vehicles, 8 of the 14 passengers, and 3 of these, And we're hoping for approval of this body, Madam Chair, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Fansler. Any questions? Mr. Councilmember Scott Andrew Bowling.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of questions. First, for the electric vehicle, what is the charge time from fully dead to fully charged?
9 hours.
9 hours, okay. And then what is trying with the voltage of the charging port that they'll be using?
The expert's on the way.
All right, good.
I'm no expert, but I'll try. Good afternoon, members of City Council.
Good afternoon.
We're intending to use level 2 chargers, or 240, I think is what I heard from sustainability for these. We have considered using a higher voltage in case we decide to go with a higher, more robust type of vehicle, but just to be able to test out how this worked first, we decided it was cost prohibitive to go higher than that for now. So.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you. And my second question is the life cycle of the light transit vehicle versus the electric vehicle. What does that look like?
It's the same.
The same?
In terms of FTA's requirement, it's the same.
Okay.
Like that.
It's still subject to the same maintenance requirements that we put on all of our buses, and so they have to satisfy FTA useful life, and so their job is to maintain that bus until such time where it will be on the city to replace, which is, in this case, for paratransit, 7 years.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Scipio.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Fansler, this is very interesting. Paratransit is such an important service that we offer to our residents, particularly those who have to deal with dialysis and doctor's appointments. That's really critical service. One of the things I'm noticing on this particular model, the Ford E-Transit versus our current, the green bus, the step here is lower to get onto that. On the newer model, how would people who have those little challenges stepping up, getting onto this bus, do they have to go up that ramp?
Yeah, so the ramp provides the mobility access for anyone that has issues accessing the vehicle. So it does offer an option for the 4-passenger here that can access the actual person loading door there, but any immediate access will be facilitated through the folding ramp.
Okay. And I know that we're concerned about the charging.
Right.
I don't know if you've considered perhaps getting in the electric SUV that's always charged in case you just have to make a run to pick up 4 people versus if this van is down because it hasn't been charged. But is your backup going to be a gas model that you already have?
Yes, so we have 40 vehicles. We're going to make sure that any scheduled ride we satisfied with the available fleet. This is the smallest vehicle that we have considered, and I think it gets back to that overall service model where at 2 passengers per hour, and if there's mobility access, this is probably going to allow for efficiencies to access via the ramp. for a lot of reasons, with maintenance, for overall schedule availability, and run cut that whole day, this is going to be the smallest option I think that we are prepared to consider at this time.
That's great. Now, I have one more technical question. I didn't want to assume this too much, but we have a fleet of 40. We're going to replace 11 vehicles.
Right.
Do we keep some of those older models just for backup, or do we just resell all of them?
FTA requires a spare ratio, which we know, we have 40. Some of those aren't in service every single day. So at any point, right now, if you go over to the garage, you're going to see a number of vehicles that are in inventory, in service, that are not being dispatched that moment. And so that is, 40 vehicles is how many we own and have in service. It does not mean they're always on the street. And that gets to what FTA calls a spare ratio, which is essentially spare fleet that can be dispatched when you have a breakdown, when you have over increased demand, or whatever the case may be. And so 40 is that number based on the current number of service hours and routes that the paratransit system supports today.
But do we get rid of those vehicles when we replace them?
Yes, so they follow the city's procurement process for disposal. So essentially, it goes to auction.
Yeah, and the life cycle?
7 years. 200,000 miles for paratransit, 200,000 miles in 7 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Andrew Bowen.
Thank you. One more question. For the EV, the lift, is that a separate battery from the battery that moves the vehicle?
I do not know.
I believe this lift is manual. On the other vehicle, that one is battery operated. It's connected to the vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Fansler, thank you so much. And thank you also, Ms. Garvin. You have put a lot of thought into and a lot of detailed planning into replacing this aging fleet that we have and serving the needs of our community. We appreciate it. Can I get a motion to approve agenda item G2?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay. Let us know if you're in support by a voice vote of aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Well, that concludes our very short agenda, and so, meeting adjourned.